album. Enjoy the sounds of Narayani for a moment, mantra. Feeling the sound and the vibration of the music. Ido Khan, Ido and Joe. And just following along with your breath as you listen to the music. So the beautiful music was an album called Kirtan Alive by Ido and Joe, Ido Khan and Joe. And you can find that album in all the places you buy music, iTunes, Spotify. So Narayani is the energy of the temple where we visit in India. So tonight, in the time that we have about the next approximately 1 hour, we'll be talking a little bit about the energies of Narayani, the energies of the temple where I take my retreats in the south of India, and a little bit about what are temples and why is it a sacred journey to go to a temple and what is special about this particular temple, a little bit about some of my experiences, and we'll do a meditation together as well. I'm going to share a quick photo of the temple in case for those who might be watching later who may not be familiar. But the temple is called Sripuram Sri Narayani Pedam. SRI Sri means shining one. And it is in the south of India in the state called Tamil Nadu. And it's about a 3-hour drive from Chennai, which is a big city in the south. And then it's about a 4-hour drive from Bangalore. And it's in a rural village called Vellore. So the temple takes up quite a bit of space and it is built on beautiful acres of land. So some temples in India are in cities and they're temple buildings in amongst other buildings, but this one is in a very beautiful nature place. So let me show you. And you will be able to see the size and the magnificence. It is coated in gold, which is very special and holds a very high frequency. That's why the element of gold is there. Mhm. So each element, gold and different ones, they all hold a very high vibrational energy. So you can see the size of the temple. This is a little bit of an older photo, but this is obviously an aerial photograph. And you can see that there's a pathway, that shape of the star. The six-pointed star is the path that goes around through the grounds and around the outside of the temple. And right in the center there, you'll see the golden structure surrounded by another circular path. And as you walk around the star-shaped path on this temple, you come across other smaller temples that are each holding a different frequency. And so temples themselves hold very special energy because of the way that they're constructed, also because of the mantras and the sacred sounds that are chanted and performed by the priests inside the temples. But they're constructed in a very specific way to hold the vibration. So the very inner part of the temples has no windows, and it's constructed so that the walls hold the frequency of the energy which is gathered, and it gathers momentum and potency through the sounds of the mantras. So when you walk inside the temples, sometimes they're a little bit quiet, but you can feel the vibration. And so the very first time I visited this temple was in September of 2013, and it has grown a lot since then. It has had extra temple spaces added to it. And those temple spaces and temple buildings, they're like small buildings on the way around that star path. And they all hold different frequencies, and there are different mantras inside it. So I've been lucky enough to watch it grow. One of the temples, which is to the divine in the form of Vishnu, which is about being of service in the world. It's about structure, and Vishnu is about maintaining our projects and our service projects. And I watched that temple grow from literally the ground up. And you get to see in that journey, I was able with some others to see how the temple starts. So it starts with the energy, and it starts in, there was obviously the outline of where the temple was going to be built. But then the first thing that was built was the beginning of the inner sanctum, which is the part where the priests are. And then there was a fire pit built in there, and there were fire ceremonies done to build the energy before the even walls and the construction happened. And then the temple itself is specifically designed with different, you walk in the main part, which is like a walkway in, and then you get into the first part of the temple, and then on some of the temples you go into a second part where you're closer to where the divine energy or the idol is standing inside. So I think there might be one more. So that's another view. You can see a little bit more clearly the gold temple in the middle there. And that's a little bit more of a close-up shot of the inner part. And the actual buildings are all geometry, sacred geometry, and designs in triangles and different shapes that are all holding the energy of the mantras and the pujas, so the ceremonies, the divine ceremonies that are in there. That's another shot there. Thought there was one, and that's how it looks more at night when the lights are on it. And there's the bottom part there is where you walk through with all the columns in the temple. And that was just, this one's just to show, this is actually the other temple up the road, but it just shows how you walk in. That's Shakti Amma, who's the master, the teacher over in India, the avatar, who's like a divine being holding a very high frequency of energy, which you can feel when you meet Amma. And so that's walking in. If you look closely, you can spot me. I always try to follow the teacher if I can. And so that's walking into the temple. So there's the entrances in. And so that is just a little bit about the way the temples operate. And as I said, when I first went to the temples, I really didn't know a lot about the way that they're constructed or the geometry. And over time, I've learned that there's nothing inside this temple and other sacred temples that is by accident. Everything has been drawn and mapped out like it's like sacred architecture and divine architecture. And then each mantra, the sound emanates and it's captured inside the temple. So the end result is that when you walk into these temples here at Sripuram, your body and your soul then connects with the energy that's being generated inside the temple. And so we might walk into our houses and we meet the energy of ourselves because we've been inside our house. We might have been thinking, or maybe even at some point might have been a bit upset or had an argument with someone. All the frequencies and the vibrations of our emotions live inside our house. And that's why people do things like they put incense in the house, or they do sage or palo or some of the sacred uh, fragrances that actually have the capacity to cleanse. Lavender, you can dry lavender flowers and light them and put that through your house. And that's deliberately to cleanse the energy and the air inside your house. But the temples in India here where I visit and where I take my retreats, they're constantly being cleansed and energized by the practices that are done there all day, every day. And there are priests taking care of those temples all of the time. They do close them at night, but from usually early in the morning through till about 8 p.m., there are different times when these sacred practices are happening. So you can imagine, even though this temple, compared to some, is probably a little bit more young, I think it was about 2010. No, maybe a little bit earlier. Ooh, I don't actually remember exactly when it was built. I went first in 2013, but it was already well established then. So I think it's been in existence about 20 years. And imagine for that time, all that time, there's mantras and ceremonies and the sacred flames and fire ceremonies in there and everything, and offerings to the divine. And so when they offer the flowers and the incense and the sacred objects, there's this resonance happening of this devotional energy, and it builds up and builds up. So you really, the thing that people notice when they first of all walk around the path that's like a star, as soon as you put your feet on that path, there's sacred geometry under the path, and it's connecting with your energy and your soul. So there's this sense of being energized but extremely peaceful. And then as you walk around and you go inside each of the temples, you feel the different frequency. And we particularly pay attention to the different ones and what the energy is inside them. So the very first one that you go into is to the energy of Ganesha. And so Ganesha helps to remove obstacles, helps us to be very connected to the earth. And I know that I've spent time in there and learned the mantra that they chant. They have a fire ceremony in there every morning about 8 a.m., it's 8:15, and they sing a particular mantra over and over. And there's a whole setup to how they do the ceremonies, and they'll set the energy, and they have like a coconut that symbolizes the divine form. There's water inside a big water pot that gets blessed by the frequencies of the mantras, and then that water gets given to us to drink. So there's use of the elements of nature inside all the ceremonies. And then we are made up of earth, air, fire, and water. Like our soul is made up that way, and our bodies have got, different liquids, and we've got a lot of water in our cells and our lymph and our blood. And then we've also, got our bones and the solidness of our physical bodies. And so as we sit and bask in that, it's a little bit like when you sit in the sun, you feel warm, you can feel the sunlight. When you sit inside the temples, you feel the energy and you absorb it. And it's actually changing the frequency of the cells inside your body. So it's incredibly special and sacred experience and opportunity to be able to go there. And I've been lucky enough over my past 12 years, 13 years almost, to have been able to go, apart from 2 years during COVID, all the other years I've gone 2 or 3 or sometimes even 4 times in the year. So I've had around about 35 visits there. And people often ask me, why do you go back to the same place? And it's like, well, it's not really exactly the same every time, because not only are there new temples opening, But each time we return to a sacred place, we're a little bit different. I've been home, I've been running meditations, I've been working, I've been meditating, I've been maybe, having upsets or arguments or life's, thrown up obstacles, whatever happens in our human life. But then when I go back again, I'm going back again fresh with a fresh experience. So I always say it's a little bit like if you cook your favorite meal. Let's just say I'm cooking fried rice. Now, I might do it exactly the same. I might have the same vegetables, the exact same brand of rice. But as you can appreciate, every time I cook it, it's going to have a little bit of a variation because perhaps I put in a little bit more liquid, or I put in a little bit more chili, or a little bit more capsicum, or a few more mushrooms. And so it's the same when we go back to this temple, although I've been there before, it's always a little bit different. And we're there to learn something new. So I have lots of friends and even people who've come on my retreats that have come back on a second time, because it's not really a place where you go once and you're done and dusted and finished. You can definitely return there. And for some people, once is all they feel they are meant to do, and that's totally fine. Everyone's different. Some people go once and it's like, yep, I've absorbed the energy and I've had some great insights and I feel like I'm finished. And other people feel the call to come back again, maybe 6 months or a year or 2 years down the track. So for those of you who might be watching this who don't know me, many years ago, 25, 30 years ago, I think, I was a busy, stressed out lawyer, and I was still on a spiritual path. I'd found the divine practices in my 20s, and I was always fascinated by the Eastern traditions, yoga, mantra, and all those sounds. And so I remember the very first time I went into a yoga ashram. It was the Satyananda ashram at Mangrove Mountain, north of Sydney in Australia. And I remember walking in and there was the sannyasins, the priests who were in their orange, robes, and they had shaved heads. There was a lot of incense and they were playing the harmonium and singing these sacred mantras. And I remember as my foot went onto the path, onto the hall, I just got overwhelmed, very teary in, crying and feeling inside myself, oh, I'm home, I'm home. And it didn't really make a lot of sense until I later realized it was like an awakening of a memory that the Indian and those spiritual practices from India are very close to my heart and they felt very familiar. And so, 20 years ago, I was still practicing as a lawyer as well as doing my spiritual practices and my meditations. And I was also discovering, other tools to help me, counseling and mediation and meditation and energy healing and lots of different things that I practiced. And then, as I said, it was, if we go to 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I had found this particular temple in India where I was visiting. And at that time, I was experiencing a lot of transformation from being at this particular temple with this teacher. And I'd had a background in learning from other teachers. And yet when I arrived here, again, something was different. Something was waking up in my heart and my soul. And I had a lot of experiences at this particular temple where I take people on retreat now, where I would just be having an interaction with Shakti Amma, who's the teacher who we saw in that photo. And he is the divine form of Narayani in a physical body. And so we get to speak to Amma. Amma actually means mother. Amma holds the energy of mother, but is the physical form of a man. And so we can speak to Amma each day when there's a daily ceremony and receive blessed water and ask a question, or you might just, interact walking up to Amma and receiving your water. And I remember once after I'd been up to receive my blessed water, and then I walked right to the back of the hall. So I was right at the back, and it was probably like 100, no, not maybe 50 meters. I don't know how long the hall is. I was quite a long way back, and there was a lot of people, maybe 100 people in front of me, and I was right at the back. And I remember just feeling this frequency coming and like a vibration coming up through my heart. And I felt a lot of gratitude. And I looked then at Amma, who was, as I say, quite some distance away. And this, you'll find when you come to the temple and you look at Amma, you'll see in his eyes, there's this incredible frequency and vibration. And I, even though I was physically far away, I looked and I saw his eyes lock into my eyes. And I had this overwhelming, was like a healing moment where everything in me went, there's nothing wrong with you. I'd always had this feeling like, oh, I need to work harder or achieve something. There's something wrong. I haven't done it right. That feeling, which maybe some people can relate to, that there's just, I'm not getting it. I'm not doing things right. And it was like this whole idea that there was something ever wrong with anything in my life or me or anything was just, it was like it was lifted out of my being. And it's a little hard to explain, but it was like this incredible relief. Imagine that you literally had on a heavy backpack and you didn't even know you were carrying it. And then someone walks up behind you and they just say, let me just take that. And they lift it off you. You know that feeling when you just put down something heavy and you just go, oh, what a relief. Oh my gosh, I feel so different. I'm not carrying this heavy thing anymore. And it was an incredible feeling. And it would happen frequently for many of us. And I would talk to other devotees and they tell the same thing. We'd be sitting inside one of the meditations or the ceremonies, especially the ones that are conducted by Amma. And you might just be sitting there with your eyes closed. And then all of a sudden you'll have this idea or realization or an insight about something. Say you've had an argument with someone, and then all of a sudden you see it from their perspective and you go, oh my gosh, maybe they didn't even understand what I was trying to say. And you get this compassion in your heart. So it's very heart-opening experience being there. And a lot of healing happens. So there's people there from all around the world, which is very fun because we get to share stories and experiences and hear what their insights are. And so people might come along with, like the retreat that I'm taking in November, it's got the flavor and the theme of Open Our Soul Blueprint. So it's very much about connecting with what are our souls here to do and what's our journey in life. How do I want to be of service? And what are the gifts that I have that when I'm using those gifts, I feel a lot of joy. And so for me, definitely anything spiritual, meditative, chanting, mantras. Also, I do laughter yoga. So, of course, the laughter is a great delight and brings a lot of joy to my heart. And also happened in one of those moments of asking the divine, what am I going to do now? And receiving the idea to start a laughter club, which also laughter clubs originate in India as well. So I have been lucky enough to visit many sacred places in India, but I do return to this particular temple. And the reason I invite people to go on retreat there with me is because I know the deep experiences that I have had there. I know the healing that I've had, the transformation. And it's like every time you enter in, there's another lesson, another journey, and it just peels away the obstacles that we have in our life and just opens our heart to a higher vibration. So it is quite a magical place. And I guess there's many dimensions of the way that we can look at it. So there's the physical beauty that we see in the temples and the way the statues are dressed with a lot of flowers and beautiful clothing on them. And the reason that the statues are dressed up and not left in the blank, like they're made of, say, stone or and then they've got saris and flowers around them. And the decoration is not only to honor the divine form, but is also to cause us to look at them. So we go, oh my gosh, look at what Lakshmi is wearing today, or look at what Vishnu is wearing today, and we get drawn in. And that causes our personalities to become engaged in the decoration so that our souls can receive the energy. So there's so many, when I'm there, it's so exciting to share all of the layers of what we're experiencing, because we could literally walk around the temple without saying anything. And I've found this with clients I've taken before. Everyone will notice different things and experience different things. But then we start talking about, well, what is that mantra in the Ganesha temple? What does it mean? So just as an example, that there is a mantra in there and it goes like this. If you want to receive this for a minute, it's the frequency of the energy. It goes, Hari Om Om Kli Ang Ayum Kilium Sarvam Sarvasiddhi Ganapatiye Nama Swaha. So that mantra is beige sounds. So there's a lot of sounds in the mantras that use a frequency, and it's a seed. So it doesn't have a direct translation or meaning, but it's like the seed of a tree has inside it all the intelligence to grow into a big tree. And the mantras that are a seed mantra, Ayum Kilium Sarvum, they're seeds. And as you repeat them, the energy in that seed wakes up the energy in your soul and brings those qualities into your soul and strengthens your soul. So that particular mantra is, it's also Sarvasiddhi, all of the cities, all the powers of Ganesha, all of the divine powers that are in that particular form of the divine are there awakened when we practice this mantra. And when we get to arrive as, people from other places who are not living there, or we're not the priests inside the temple, but we get to walk in and experience the frequency where those mantras have been practiced. So they've been doing that every day for years, and we are able to walk in and receive the imprint of those mantras. So it's very sacred. And then if we go around towards Lakshmi, which is the divine force as the energies of abundance, then we get the frequencies, we get the beige sounds of Shreem, Lakshmi, Om Shreem Mahalakshmi. So there's different sounds resonating with each. And then if we go around to Vishnu, the form of that Vishnu is Srinivasa. And so there's a different mantras again that they do inside there. And it doesn't even require us to know the meaning of the mantras or anything like that, because you feel the vibration. A little bit like if you listen to music, you can feel the different notes resonating inside. So what else did I want to share about the temple? On top of the temples, there are also, if you look quite closely, there's like it's like they're almost like an antenna, a number of antennas on top. They're like a rod, a metal rod on top of the temple, and there's different numbers of them on the different roofs of the temples. And then there's usually one big one, and it's almost like it's designed then to connect with the cosmic energy and to draw that energy in and distribute it through the temple. So again, you can, if you don't actually know what to look for, you won't necessarily see a lot of these things. But as we walk around and I share and just point these things out as we're like inside the retreat, for example, there's just so many different pieces that you get to pick up on, and it helps to open our awareness and to really connect with all of the beautiful energy that's available to us there. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to, if anyone has a particular burning question, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can unmute and ask. Otherwise, we'll do a meditation, maybe a little bit more mantra. Just check the chat in case there's anything. So what we'll do now is we will close our eyes and we're going to have a meditation. I may share a little bit more of the mantra sounds, and You can just imagine yourself being at this beautiful temple in India and what it would be like to experience the energy there. It's a very, as I said, it's very peaceful and expansive. And so as you just gently close your eyes, I'm going to try this with the music and hope that it's not too loud. I'll turn it down softly and hopefully you'll still hear me. But if you can't hear me and the music, then if someone just unmutes and lets me know they can't hear me, I'll stop the music. I'm just going to turn it down. The sound of music's quite low. And you can still hear me as well. And just use the music to help you to tune into the vibration of your own. Being aware of that energy inside the heart and the frequency of the sound. So Narayani brings forth the energies of strength and courage, abundance and wisdom. And just breathing down into the earth, really connecting down deep into Mother Earth. And feeling a golden energy come up from the earth, up through the body, out through the top of the head. Imagine you can breathe and send that energy up into the highest point in the universe. Then just breathing in from above. Just letting that energy come in from that highest place. And just breathing in golden sunlight from above. Imagine you're standing under the sun, shining down. And imagine the sun's rays coming down through a little tiny bit of cloud. And just gently bring forth warmth all around you. And imagine as that energy comes down, it can gently wash away through your energy system, any stress, any energies that you don't need. Just imagine you can use your breath to breathe those out all over the body. You can just say in your mind, I let go of all energies that are not mine. I let go of all energies that I no longer need. I let go of all stress from my body, mind, and energy field now. Just using your breath to breathe in and releasing any energy all over. In your imagination, the sunlight is shining through, golden light coming all the way down through your body, down into the earth. And you realize there's this moment as you look down at your feet that you have landed on the path, this beautiful star-shaped path in this temple in India, in the south of India, Sripuram, Sri Narayani Peedam. Shri means the shining Devi, the shining goddess, the home of the goddess. And as you feel your feet on the path, you start to gently walk. And it's like the sun is following you and walking with you as you start to walk around the path, noticing the trees and the flowers, feeling the warm air of the Indian summer. Temperature is always warm in South India. And on this particular day, it just feels beautifully warm. There's the warmth of the air and there's the coolness of a breeze. Not too hot, not too cold, it's just right. And as you start to walk around the path, you can feel the frequencies of energies that have been gathered here over the years and years that the temple has been created. And you let your breath go down through your legs and feet and into the earth. Just like you're giving back to the earth anything that you don't need, any stress, any frequencies of energies that are no longer needed. And every step that you take along the path, you're feeling lighter and lighter. It's almost as if, as I spoke about before, that any heaviness, any burdens are all being removed and taken off. The obstacles, any stress from your life is being washed away. Each step you take, you're getting lighter and lighter. And as you're walking and you're feeling lighter and lighter, you're starting to have a gentle awareness of your heart area, your physical heart and the energy center of your heart. Knowing that around your physical body, there's chakras, there's like your energy centers. And as you gently breathe in and out through that heart area, you feel yourself being filled with gratitude and having thoughts and saying to yourself what you're thankful for, what you're grateful for. And whatever you're grateful for can be something small or something large. You might be grateful that you're breathing. You might be grateful that you're able to walk. You might be grateful that the sun is shining. You might be grateful that you have a place to stay, somewhere to sleep. You might be grateful for the people in your life, your friends, your family. And as you feel that gratitude in your heart, you feel that your heart is becoming more and more open, like a beautiful flower, like a beautiful rose opening in the heart, and also at the back of the heart in the middle of the spine. And you realize that by some miraculous and strange phenomenon of nature, that the golden energy of the sun has come down through the center of your head, down through your neck to the middle of your heart, and it's coming out the front of the heart, and it's going on the outside of your body around the left arm on the outside, making like a circle, like a golden point of light, and it's coming in the back of the body in the middle of the heart, going out the front and around the right side and outside the right arm and in the back. And so that shape is like a figure 8 lying on its side, like an infinity shape. And your heart is the center point, the 0 point. So imagine now that there's a golden energy of light going around and it's got its own momentum. So you don't even need to keep it going, but it's going out to around one side in the back, out the front and around the other side. And it's looping like that. And this is happening as you're continuing to walk along this beautiful path, noticing the flowers and the trees, hearing the music and the sacred mantras. And I'm going to chant a mantra that balances the elements within us. So just as you're imagining yourself walking, even if you might want to imagine stopping and sitting down for a rest while the golden energy is going around in a figure 8, Just receiving the sounds of this particular mantra. Harihi Om Nam Lam Mam Vam Simram Vam Yam Yam Hum Shiva Om Namah Swaha Harihi Om Nam Lam Mam Vam Simram Vam Yam Yam Hum Shiva Om Namah Swaha Harihi Om Nam Lam Mam Vam Simram Vam Yam Yam Hum Shiva Om Namah Swaha Harihi Om Nam Lam Mam Vam Simram Vam Yam Yam Hum Shiva Om Namah Swaha. And now, if you've been sitting down resting on the star path, on this beautiful path in the temple, you might start to walk again and reach the next temple around in the center where that golden temple is that we saw in the center of the photograph earlier. So that beautiful big golden temple, the outside of it is all gold plated onto and over the temple building. And as we get to the front of that temple, we see that Amma is there. So Sri Shakti Narayani Amma, as I said before, is the avatar holding the energy of Narayani, the teacher inside this temple who was born in that local village and began doing ceremony at a young age when he was 16. And gradually over time, had the vision and the divine intention that there would be a temple built, but not only a temple built there, there would be a hospital, there would be schools, there would be feeding programs, medical. So all of the needs of the society there would be met through the projects of the temple. And so trees were planted all over the hills that there were no trees almost at all. And hundreds of thousands of trees were planted, and the temple buildings gradually grew up and formed the temple that it is today. So there's a photo of Amma, and right now we can, in our imagination, that we are meeting Amma and receiving blessed water. And you can spend a moment of your own time just to imagine that you are interacting with this master who has created this incredible temple from what was nothing. There was bare ground, there was no gardens, there was no trees. Then a small little house was built, which is still there. And gradually, over time, a statue of Narayani, a small statue of Narayani was created, actually pulled by Amma out of a bucket of water. And she's a fully formed, beautiful statue in sacred metals. But there were witnesses, some of whom I've spoken to, who were there so long ago when Amma said Narayani was going to come, and created a bucket of water with some sacred substances like turmeric and things, and then Amma put his hand into the water and pulled out this beautiful, fully formed statue. So there's a lot of miraculous things like that that take place there. And I've certainly seen Amma manifest sacred pendants and items. And there's even a story, I think I have the video, which I can share, where people were at Amma's home, and one of the devotees said it was very hot. And Amma said, "Oh, do you want the weather to cool down?" And within a few minutes, this is South India, where it's always in the high 30 degrees. A massive cloud came over. Not only did it start raining and the temperature dropped, but it dropped to the point where hail came. The rain turned into hail. That's how cold it got for about 10 minutes and then gone. So, yeah, there's so many miracles. It's so fun. So imagine that you've got this time to have a conversation with Amma, just a little moment between the two of you while I just play a little bit more of Narayani music while you have that moment. And if you are feeling you don't really know what that form of Amma is like, just call on your own divine self, your higher self, or if you're connected to other divine beings like Jesus, Buddha, or Krishna, you can create any form to speak to. Very good time when you're, even now, when you're in India, to ask to be shown answers to questions that you might have. See what answers come forth from the high vibration. And so, even though we're honoring the form of the divine as Narayani, and the mantra is Om Namo Narayani, I pay my respects to the divine as Narayani. The teachings, especially in the Hindu tradition, are that there is only one divine form, and it's very connected to nature. And so they use the elements of nature. And so if you have a great love for Jesus or Buddha or Krishna, or I see people who follow the Muslim faith there, even though the temple is a temple known to be a Hindu temple, because the divine form is there in the oneness. And that question has been asked. I've been at, different conversations in front of Amma where people say, well, what if I'm Christian and I love Jesus? And then Amma goes, well, you give the love to Jesus, the love comes to Amma, the love from Amma goes to Jesus, and it's all in the oneness. And of course, these are all aspects of our self anyway. Our soul is that divine self that is in the oneness. So in a sense, even when we pray, we're receiving those answers from the higher part of ourselves. It's only in the human form that we think we're separate from the divine. And so one of the great realizations in being in these sort of sacred places and temples is that you realize the oneness. So now you're just going to start to come back from that experience in that temple, gently returning back into the room where you are, feeling your body, breathing down through your physical body, down into the floor, feeling your feet on the floor, Just starting to gently move your body. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. And so I think one of the things that's, again, lovely about being in temples, and when I show people around the temple and we go on retreat, we have that experience of leaving the usual things in our life back at home. So, if you work in a job or you have family commitments, it's like when we take ourselves on a spiritual pilgrimage to somewhere like this temple in India, we're leaving that behind. We're leaving behind the habits of what we do in our day. Perhaps, we go to the gym or we go to work or we go to family events, and nothing wrong with any of that. It's all very important. But this is a sacred time where you go on a trek to your inner world and you leave all that behind. And so as we journey inside the temple, we're journeying inside ourselves, and we're starting to see parts of ourselves that we forgot were there, because all of the answers are always inside us. And it's really common. I've had this happen myself and with friends and um, people on retreat that I've taken, is that we'll be sitting in meditation or we'll be sitting inside one of the temples, and all these ideas will come and you'll see things differently. If you've had a problem or a difficulty going on, the solution will suddenly be there. And what's really happening is that in the frequency and the vibration, the distractions and the habits of our daily life back at home have been left at home. And so we've stepped into a fresh, clear space. So it's like having a blank piece of paper that you can start to write on in the way that you want. So when we talk about this particular retreat is about opening our soul blueprint, we'll be doing practices and channel messages and things that will be connecting us to what is it that brings my soul joy, and what are the things that I love to do, and how can I be of service in the world. So they're the sort of themes. And then a lot of healing can happen, physical healing, emotional healing, often with the frequency of the energy. Different experiences just, it's like they dissolve and wash away, and they're just not there anymore because of the healing energy. So it is a magical place. If you're even thinking about coming on retreat, I know some people here are coming on retreat. Yay. And so we are going to have a lot of fun. And those who might be thinking about it, I would encourage you just reach out and have a chat to me if you'd like to know more. All the information's on my website. However, I guess the message is that it's really stepping away from life, and it's stepping into so much more of who you are. It's a very rich experience across opening up your soul, connecting with your heart's desires. So don't hesitate to be in touch. And I'll be doing another one of these classes in another couple of weeks. So that will be, I've got the events on Meetup and also on my Facebook, my Chamundai. And if you're not already looking at my YouTube channel, there's the recordings of these past classes, as well as other channel messages and mantras and meditations and all sorts of things, and laughing classes. So we always try and keep up the laughter. Does anyone have any questions or anything they wanted to? Good, feeling very relaxed. Yes, there was a comment there earlier about sponsorships. Yep, one of the things that we can do when we're over in India as well is that we can contribute financially to some of the ceremonies, and that also brings like an abundance of blessings back. So it's like you're honoring the teachings and the ceremonies, and you put a particular prayer or intention in, and you receive back sometimes miraculous things come back. I actually had a family member who was not very well when I was there last time, and I did a one of the fire ceremonies that's focused on healing and physical healing. It's actually connected to the hospital. So in the hospital, they have a state of the art, exactly like any other hospital with all the modern equipment, but they also have a temple inside the hospital. And so they create a frequency of healing through the vibrations and the mantras that are healing mantras inside the hospital building. And they have all the doctors doing all their things that doctors do everywhere. It's quite it's like a real synergy of how things come together. But anyway, I was praying and I had paid to sponsor this ceremony. And while I was doing it, this family member went to hospital and had quite a miraculous healing of something. They didn't even know what was wrong. But within about an hour of me doing this ceremony, they'd gone into emergency, but then completely cured the issue. Yeah, it was actually a kidney stone, and the kidney stone passed, no pain, no issues, no kidney stones getting stuck anywhere that they like to get stuck, just boom, fixed, done, cleared. Divine coincidence. I've had quite a few family and friends experience things when I'm in India. So that's another thing. Your friends and your family get the benefits of you going along. So lovely. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I will, as I say, reach out. Anyone who's maybe watching this later on who has questions, you can find me. My email is probably good. It's laugh@thelaughterlawyer.com. And my website is laughterlawyer.com.au. And the details will be below the YouTube recording. So Om Namo Narayani, we pay our respects to Narayani and we say thank you for all of the blessings. Bye-bye.